Zach, I'm the young adults pastor here, and this is kind of the part of the service where we kind of sit and listen to me talk for about 20-30 minutes about what the Bible has to say to us. And someone said woo, a muted woo. We're just getting started, we're already getting woos, so that's perfect for tonight. We're starting actually, if you've come along, you've come on a good night, because we've started a new series tonight, the very first night of it, and it's called The Power of the Presence. And I don't know if you've experienced some sort of presence before. We're going to go with this definition for tonight. It's going to go up on the screen. Something that is present in a place but is not seen. And I'm not sure if you've ever been somewhere and you kind of get a sense of like a presence in the room. Even some of you now might be like, this is kind of weird. I didn't come to church to hear about presences. Maybe you've been somewhere or you've experienced something and you're like, there's some sort of presence going on. There's something kind of beyond that I can't quite see, that I can't quite touch, but it's there. I thought I'd start with the story of a presence I kind of experienced or felt, and it was actually on Young Adults Retreat. Every year we take a bunch of young adults out to Bunya Mountains. Just give a holler if you went last year. It's a great weekend away, and we pretty much every Saturday night go stargazing, all right? Because out of the Bunya Mountains, it's like 2.5 hours west, and there's no kind of light pollution out there, and you can just lay down on the grass. And every year, I just remember laying down on the grass, and you look up at the stars, and it looks something like this. This is off the Bunya Mountains website, so it's got some credit to it. And there's always those people that start talking about the constellations. Is anyone one of these people? Talk about the constellations? Yep. Oh, yep, that's the Big Dipper, that's the Scorpio or whatever. I can never see any of them. Is anyone else like that? Like someone's saying, yeah, there's the tail of the scorpion. I'm thinking, there's just a bunch of stars up there, come on. I can't even find the Southern Cross, all right? Every time I do, I'm like, yeah, there it is right there. And someone says, no, that hasn't got the pointers. It's meant to be over here, and I'm lost. But I find when I'm kind of at Young Adults Retreat and I'm looking up at the stars, I get a sense of a presence. I'm looking at stars and I'm kind of looking at this kind of crazy universe out into it, and yet I'm feeling and experiencing something more than the stars. I don't know if you felt that there's something bigger going on in this world than maybe just what we can see and what we can touch. And I think culture's trying to work this out, right? As someone that is a pastor and someone that works in a church, I believe we've worked this out. And I think Australian culture's trying to work it out. They're trying to put their finger on what's really happening when it comes to this presence thing, when it comes to things that you can't quite see or touch. And this is one book that's trying to work it out. It's called The Power of the Presence. It's the same name of the series that we're doing, except we didn't take it off this lady. This is Christy Hedges, right? And she came up with this concept that each person has a presence within them. And if you can work on your presence, if you can improve your presence, all right, then you're kind of going to be awesome. All right? In fact, this book shows how to improve your presence. It even goes, apparently she's helped develop a unique eye presence model. Sounds pretty cool. Oh, that's getting a whoa as well. And so now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't read the book. I've read the synopsis of the book. And the concept is, if some people walking around here today seem to have more of a presence than others, and if you walk through the unique eye presence model, if you walk through that, you can improve your presence. And some people in here are walking around thinking, yeah, there's something going on that's bigger than the inside, and I'm trying to work out how to be more present. All right, how to become more of the person that I feel like I should be. And it's bigger than just seeing them or touching them. There's something bigger going on within people. And you know that. When you talk to someone tonight, you're not just talking, all right, to the cells and the water that's within the person. You're talking to some sort of presence that's going on inside. All right, there's another slide coming up. It's got Mindfulness Meditation Australia. All right, and this is kind of a movement. I did some research into this. Pretty confident that's an AI image that they've used on their website, but anyway. And this group, again, it's a non-Christian group, they're trying to work out what's going on, that there's something bigger than the world that we're in. And so if they can just be mindful and present, and their job is to try and go into schools and practice mindfulness meditation, if they can just kind of block out some of the distractions, block out some of the other presences, then they can focus on the key presence at hand. And again, it's all trying to answer this question of there's something bigger going on. There's some sort of presence. There's something happening. And you would know this because you experience it every day, all right? You walk around experiencing presence of other things going on in your life. For example, this week, someone may have said something to you that struck a chord. Maybe it was something that was hurtful. Maybe it was something that felt like a rejection and enters a presence. You can feel it within you. Some of you are feeling it right now. You're like, I feel like rejected or I feel hurt. And you can't quite see or touch it, but there's a presence going on within you. I remember I used to work with basketball. Is there any ballers here? Any basketballers here? Come on, 3 of us. That's good. Part of my job used to be to run what was called the Mueller Basketball Academy. It was a school, and we used to run these camps, and at the end of each camp, we would have a basketball tournament to kind of finish off the camp. Lots of fun. Absolutely loved it. But I remember one particular night on one camp, things got a bit out of control, all right? It just got nuts. There was like an injury almost every second game. All right, first of all, this guy's rolled his ankle really badly, so I've had to kind of help him. We've done the ricer thing, put ice on it, all that kind of stuff. We just kind of get him kind of covered and, his pain management down and everything. We're just on the phone to the parents. I kid you not, another kid walks over, broken nose. Now we're dealing with that broken nose. All right, so now I've got to deal with this. The court, while I'm kind of sorting this kid out who's just broken their nose, all right, on the far court, there's some boys just being absolute idiots and just mucking around. Not even playing sport the way it's meant to be played. And now I've got to go out and sort that game over there. Next thing, this girl goes down on the court, we've got to call an ambulance. And it was just thing after thing after thing. And so many different presences just taken my attention. I felt like I was just running around with my head kind of full of all these different things. And for some of us, I reckon life even feels a bit like that, doesn't it? So many different presences kind of vying for your attention. So many things that you can't quite put your finger on. You can't quite fully grasp, but they're pulling you in all different directions. And this is something in our culture, right? People just feel like they're at wit's end. They're getting pulled in all different directions. I won't get you to put your hand up, but just give me a nod. Who feels like that? Yes, you just feel like you're getting pulled all different directions by all these different presences. And so it's into this moment that we introduce the Bible story, and we're talking about the burning bush, Moses and the burning bush. You may not know anything about the story. You may be new to church, and it's an Old Testament story, and it's about this guy, Moses. And he turned out to be kind of one of the key people in the whole Old Testament story. And he was an Israelite person, and what happened is he fled Egypt, where he kind of grew up, where he was actually some sort of royalty in Egypt, and he fled because of a presence of fear. What happened, and it seems kind of intense, but there was someone kind of oppressing another Hebrew person, and Moses was Hebrew. And so in his anger, after seeing this, he kind of lurches out and attacks this guy that was persecuting and hurting a Hebrew person, and actually ends up killing him. So he's a murderer. And in fear of getting found out, in fear of what might happen to him, he flees Egypt to a place called Midian. Some of us have a presence of fear in our hearts right now. And it's dictating what's happening in our lives. It's pulling us in a direction. Just like me at the basketball camp, kind of getting pulled all multiple different directions. It's pulling you in a direction. And this is the place that Moses found himself, being pulled away out of God's calling because of a presence of fear. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to open the story, read it, and talk about what is going on. And because it's a bit of a story tonight that kind of follows along, it's about 14 verses. I've actually invited my wonderful wife to stop listening to me and listen to somebody else. She's going to read the story for us, and it's going to be up on the screen. You can follow along, and then we'll talk about it. Yeah, please do. Come on up.
Exodus 3. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, Here I am. Do not come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Then he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I'm concerned about their suffering. So I've come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? And God said, I will be with you, and this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you've brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. Moses said to God, Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they say, What is his name? Then what shall I tell them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mariah, for reading that. So lovely. And so enter into the story through the burning bush, not a presence, but in fact, the presence. If we think of that book at the start that talks about the power of presence, it was trying to summon up some sort of presence within to sort your life out, summon up something from deep down in here using the I presence model, and you can all of a sudden experience this presence. But no. In here is an example of not a presence, but the presence. It's not about meditating and trying to get rid of all other distractions so we can sense some other presence. But no, into the story enters the presence. And so all I want to do tonight with the time I've got left is just talk about what is this presence, the presence that was burning in the bush. And what is our approach to it? So these are some things that as we go through that explain what this presence is. So, first of all, the presence, all right? It turns up in the everyday. It said, now Moses was tending the flock. He was just going about his normal everyday business, and then all of a sudden the presence reveals itself. You could be folding the washing. You could be working at Macca's. I know there's some of you here that work there. You could be driving along Anzac Avenue. This was my story just a couple of weeks ago. There's nothing more everyday than Anzac Avenue, I can tell you. It's bulk lights, bulk traffic. And I was just driving along Anzac Avenue and I was listening to this Christian book. And I can tell you the presence of God just filled up the car. The presence of God just filled up my heart. I just started weeping in the car. It would have been funny as if you were driving next to me. Thinking, what is this, God? Just in the everyday, driving along Anzac Avenue. And you might have come along to church tonight with a friend. You might be investigating this whole thing out. And we're just meeting in a building. There's nothing special about this building necessarily. But just with ordinary people in just an ordinary building, the presence of God can turn up. And so that's the first thing we can take away tonight. The presence of God turns up in the everyday and also within the everyday, right? It was just like a shrub. You've probably seen lots of shrubs before, right? You're just walking past, it's just in the everyday. didn't whisk Moses into some dreamland that's kind of far beyond anything that he's experienced. It's just in the ordinary, everyday stuff that the presence of God, reveals himself. Verse 4, it goes on, it calls out to him from the bush, Moses, Moses. And I can tell you again tonight, the presence that we're talking about, not just any old presence, the presence, God himself, calls you by name. You know, when I'm looking up at the stars like I was at Young Adults Retreat, none of the stars are like, Zach. It'd be pretty creepy if they were. But when we're experiencing the presence, calls us by name. And in fact, God's calling you by name tonight. No other presence, whether it's fear or rejection or pain or the grandness of what's going on in this world, none of them are calling you out by your name, and that's what Jesus does. As the presence turns up in the everyday, just in a regular church like this, he also reaches out to you and he knows you. And he calls you by name. He doesn't just call you by name and knows you, he calls you into something greater. In fact, if we go to the next slide, it talks about this. So now go, I am sending you to Pharaoh. You're not just called into the presence doesn't just come down for no reason at all. And many of us in our state of our life, we may be floundering a little bit, all right? Just feeling like, I just don't really know where I'm meant to be going, what I'm meant to be doing, where I'm meant to be working, what uni course I'm meant to do. And the beauty of the presence is it calls us into something wherever we are, whatever we're doing. I was just last night chatting to my wife, and she was just saying, has your life turned out the way you want it to? Just a casual Saturday night conversation. If you know my wife, that's the way she talks. Has your life turned out the way you wanted it to? I kind of took a little bit of a moment to kind of think over it, and mostly I can say yes, but I think overall, the reason I feel like my life's turning out the way is because in the every single day decisions, God's got a purpose for me. God's got a direction for me. And so no matter where you are, what you're doing, who you know, where your community is at, when you're experiencing the presence, when you get to know the presence, it's calling you into a greater purpose. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, God says to Moses, I am who I am. And see, Moses says, well, when I go to Pharaoh, what am I going to say? Who am I going to say this presence is? It's like a burning shrub. What am I going to say about this? And the presence speaks, I am who I am. And that simply just means I'm self-sufficient. I am the presence that was before all presences. I am the power from which all things came to be. And this is what the presence is saying. And that's the same that God's saying to you tonight. It's saying, I was before all. That's why I was looking up at the stars going, wow, this thing's crazy. It's incredible. It points to the presence. It points to God. Because God himself, the presence before all. And the most beautiful thing about a self-sufficient presence, the presence before all, the I am who I am, means it's not trying to get something from you. Lots of presences and distractions are vying or are wanting something from you to try and survive, to try and keep going. And God himself, the presence, is self-sufficient just as the presence is, just as the triune God, the Trinity is. Doesn't need anything from you. And the most beautiful thing about that is, therefore, is enough for everything that you have. Self-sufficient. It is enough in itself, and so it doesn't need to draw something from you. So when you come to the presence, it is enough for all your problems, all your baggage, all the stuff that you hope to see. The presence itself is enough. I just want to talk about a few different ways I've experienced the presence just this week. To show you that the presence is enough. Number one, the presence moved in power. My wife and I were praying for a breakthrough in some finances, and God just provided in an incredible way. The presence is enough. In a situation that could have been stressful this week, and like something like, oh, shivers, this is going to be really tough, this is really, really going to be difficult. The presence showed up, it was enough, and it gave me a peace. The presence today rocked up, and as we were kind of in the time of Kadash before, which is what we do before church, and we sing some songs, I was over on the piano there just kind of playing away. And one thing you might not know is I was pretty crook today. If you ask my wife, what was I doing most of today? Complaining. Just like any other day. I got a case of the man flu. I don't know if you've experienced that. It gets you really, really bad. To be honest, I was in conversation with Mara this morning. I was thinking, I don't know if I'll be able to get up to preach tonight. I don't know if I've got it in me tonight. And the presence rocked up. People came and prayed for me. And here I stand now. I'm sure scientifically there's adrenaline and everything pumping through in my body, and that's keeping me going tonight. But in a much grander sense, I know that it is the presence himself, God himself, that's sustaining me. And so whatever battle you're going through, and whatever struggle you're going through, and whatever lack that you are experiencing, as we step into the presence of God, and we're going to seek the presence tonight, it turns up and gives you more than enough. Lastly, I just wrote down here, it gives me an eternal security that no matter what's going on in my life, even when things aren't turning out the way that I hope, that there is an eternity in heaven that cannot be taken away. And so you may be going through your life trying to fix problems, as you run into kind of hurdles, trying to fix things with other presences and being distracted by other presences. And my call tonight is to reject the invitation from the other presences and accept the invitation from the presence. The presence before all presences. I'll tell you, I'm betting my life that the presence is enough. And that's what we want to be at Lifepoint, a church of people who are like, you know what, we believe that God is enough. And so as I just finish up now, I just want to talk about how are we to approach this presence. If it talks about what this presence is, how are we to in fact approach it? Does anyone watch Judge Judy? Is anyone good? A few people, probably lots of people would not want to raise their hand to that. When I was young, I used to take sick days from school, probably because I complained a lot, according to my wife. And I complained to my mum, I'm feeling sick, and I get a sick day from school. Judge Judy time. Daytime television, it was great. And you would know if you've ever been to, I've never been to Judge Judy, I've just watched it, but you'd know if you ever come before a judge, there's a whole lot of things to do to prepare yourself. There's a whole lot of things to do to iron out the way that you should approach. You see, a judge is powerful. If you've gone before a judge, often it's not in great circumstances. They have the power to affect your finances, to fine you. They have the power to put you in prison. They have a lot of power, judges. And so when you come before a judge, they tell you like you got to kind of nod a little bit, and then you got to sit in this spot, and you're not to speak unless you're spoken to, and all these kind of things to approach a judge. Some of you may have experienced something like that. And it's interesting in this story, there's some sort of similar thing going on. As the bush and the fire and the shrub just calls Moses into his presence, it also talks about how we are to approach. First of all, Moses says, "Here I am." Makes himself available. And so my encouragement would be tonight is as we approach the presence, as we approach God, is to be a people that say, "Here we are, God. Here we are." And that looks simply like just keep turning up. Keep turning up to spend time with the presence. And that can look in a range of different ways. For some of you, it might be coming along to church on a Sunday. Keep turning up. I encourage, if anyone doesn't come at 4:30 and we just spend some time in prayer and worship, I encourage you to come at 4:30 on a Sunday. It's a great place to just turn up and experience the presence. To say to God, "Here I am." for many of us, and maybe most pointedly, is in just everyday prayer time. To create rhythms in our life that means we just keep showing up and turning up to experience and to know the presence. Even just this week, on a Wednesday night, we had a prayer training course at our house. And I'm going to be honest, I was pretty tired on Wednesday. I don't know if you ever experienced that. You get to kind of halfway through your week, you're like, oof, feeling pretty tired. Whereas like we've got this prayer training thing tonight. Now, I'm a pastor. Is there anything I should look forward to more than prayer training? But again, the presence of distraction, the presence of tiredness, is like, oh, I don't know. I turned up. Keep turning up. Here I am. And just sat under the most beautiful prayer teaching on a Wednesday night. And just, again, the presence just turned up and I was so benefited from it. And so the encouragement is to keep turning up. And lastly, the presence says, take off your shoes. For where you're standing is holy ground. And so, not just like any other presence, because this is the presence, because this is a presence that is out of this world, because this is God himself, there is a preparation that is required. Just like when you walk into the judge, you don't just act like you're around your mates, because the judge has a power. And it's the same when we come to the presence. Don't come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. That there is a preparation required as we step into the presence of preparing our hearts to be one with God. And this can look like many different things. But if you're anything like me, you struggle to get your heart in the right spot. You struggle to prepare yourself fully to experience God. When you think about the power of the presence, you think, I got nothing on that. And interesting, if we go to the next verse, it just talks about an invitation. The presence says to Moses, I will be with you, and this will be the sign that it is I who have sent you. And so the presence itself, the power, says, I am going to be with you. And so if you're preparing to experience God, if you're preparing yourself to know God and you feel like, you know what, I haven't really got what it takes, the best news for you tonight, and potentially the best news you're ever going to hear, is that God promises to be with you. You see, the presence gives itself to us, and the presence was not just a burning bush, it was something much bigger. And the presence actually has a name, and the presence put on a body, and his name is Jesus. And we got to see the presence, we got to experience the presence 2,000 years ago. And so you want to know what the presence looks like? You're looking at Jesus. You see, the presence in his power, in his glory, gives himself to us. And so what is the preparation that is needed? It's to simply just come before God and accept his grace, accept his forgiveness, accept his love. Because Jesus was the preparation that we needed. He lived in the presence of fear so you don't have to tonight. He lived the presence of pain so you don't have to tonight. He belittled himself so you could experience it. We had to look away due to his power with the burning shrub, and now in the presence of Jesus, we looked away in pity because of what was going on the cross, because he lowered himself. And it's all because of this sacrifice that you can step into the presence of God tonight. And this is what the Christian walk is about. It's about the sacrifice of Jesus. Jesus paid the price for you. He did the preparation for you. And so you can be in his presence tonight. You know, the experience Moses had was just one encounter of many encounters in his life, right? He had to just keep going back to God, keep encountering him as he led the Israelite people. And it's the same for us tonight, right? We're calling out that we might experience God, but it's also just one one experience of the presence after another. We just keep going back to him, keep experiencing him. And so we're going to move into a time of response tonight. And I just want to say the invitation to the presence is there tonight. As we kick off this series into the power of the presence, we're just going to start by just inviting Lifepoint Church into his presence. And so what this looks like in a moment, the band's going to come up and pray. And you might have a particular prayer need where you just need some of this power that we've been talking about that the presence has. That you just need God to come through in an incredible way and a powerful way. And I can tell you, we've been seeing some breakthroughs to prayer in this place. If you're like, you know what, God, I need you to move in this circumstance. There's just some people down the front here. We'd love to pray for you. And you can just come on down during this next song and say, hey, look, I just want God to break through in this way, and they'll just pray for you. You may not say anything. You just say, I need prayer, and they'd love to pray for you. There's some people here tonight that need the power of the presence. And lastly, there might be some people tonight that are just like, you know what? I want God. I want the presence. And time through the Bible, God seems to move where his people wanted him most. And we want to be a church that desires God, that desires the presence. And what we're going to do also during this song, if you want to just come down and just be one of those people that says, yep, you know, particularly tonight, Lord, I just want to be found in your presence. I want to experience your presence. I want to desire your presence. I just invite you to come take a stand or a kneel down the front during this song. And people might even come and just lay a hand and pray for you as we do that, for just a deeper experience of his presence.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. We really hope you enjoyed that. 2 quick things before we go, okay? 1, we'd love to connect with you. Go to our website, lifepoint.org.au, hit connect and just give us your details. Someone from our church will be in contact with you. And the second thing is, if you live in the area, around the kind of Moreton Bay or North Brisbane, come along to a service, 8:30, 10 o'clock and 5 p.m. We'd absolutely love to see you here on a Sunday. Cheers.